I became an actor at 30. We're not going to use you in the main role, but we're probably going to use you in one of the other roles. Oh, so great. I'm going to be an actor, you know? If you want to be a professional actor, you have to either go to New York or LA. Leonardo DiCaprio, they wouldn't audition anymore at all. They would be what's called offer only. When I'm acting, I always play bad guys.
When people tell me like, oh, I needed to like learn my lines and it's 20 pages, that automatically cancels me out as an actor.
There's like between 4,000 and 5,000 submissions for just one role.
All right, so another episode of La La Landing podcast. And I'll be honest with you, Richie, this is one of my most anticipated ones. And actually, this is the first one I'm doing in English.
Really?
The ones I've done before were in Russian and Ukrainian, because, you know, that's the plethora of my friends that speak those languages. But now I want to talk to you, and I'm super excited about it, because when people drop on this couch and talk to me, you know, they talk about their professions and occupations, and more importantly, they talk about Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing more Los Angeles than acting. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. So wanted to say thank you for being here. But before we get to the acting, tell us a little bit more about you, man.
Okay, so I'm from Ireland originally. I came to America when I was 22. So I've been here 19 years. Yeah, originally from Ireland. I lived up in the Bay in San Francisco for my first 8 or 9 years. And then I became an actor at 30. So I was
became an actor at 30. Is there, you know how in sports, for example, if you don't make it till certain age, and I mean the age could be different, like if you don't make it to by the age of like 6 in gymnastics or whatever, you're never going to go to Olympics. Is there such a thing in acting?
Well, most people who become professional actors, they start when they're about 18 or 19. Usually, like they would go to performing arts college, or they would have had some interest in it in high school, and then they just pursue it from a young age. So it's unusual for someone later in life to get into it. But you have exceptions to the rule, like I think Morgan Freeman started like really late in life. So it's easier if you start younger, because it takes so long to establish yourself, and a lot of times there can be a prejudice if you haven't gone to certain schools, or if if you haven't been to a conservatory. Those kind of education backgrounds, they're favored usually over people who just come in out of nowhere. So it does have an advantage to starting younger, but not necessarily, like, because it's kind of like you can do it or you can't do it.
Right.
You know, and like if you're a soccer player or some kind of a sports person, you have a window of time where you're going to be at your peak. But it's not like that. Usually actors get better when they're older. So yeah, but in general, it's good to start young, but you don't necessarily have to.
Cool. But what is it that interested you in this? And when was the first time when you actually had interest in acting? Was it while you were still living in Ireland? Was it when you were in San Francisco?
When I was a kid, I was into it. Like, I did it from the age of 10 to 13 when I was like little. And I was good at it. You know, I won prizes and stuff like that. And just local stuff where I'm from in Ireland. But when I was about 13, I had an audition for a movie. There was a movie made in my home county where I'm from. It was called The Butcher Boy. It was, I think it was a Joel Schumacher project. I could be wrong, but I think that's who it was, somebody like that. No, it wasn't Joel Schumacher. It was somebody else, but it was an Irish movie. And my acting teacher sent me to an audition. I went in, I did the audition, and the casting director, she's still around now, she's a British casting director. She actually casts Harry Potter and those kind of things,
Really?
you know. Yeah, I think her name's Susie Figgis. But she was the casting director, and I went in, had never been to an audition before, and it went well. I don't really remember what happened, but at the end of it, she goes, "Oh, you're great. We're not going to use you in the main role, but we're probably going to use you in one of the other roles." I was like, great, I'm going to be an actor, you know? And then they never called me. and I was like so sad and disappointed. And
They just quit.
Well, they just never used me. And then I thought, if you have one audition, and you don't get it, you're not supposed to be an actor. And like my parents didn't know, like, you know, they were just like, oh, I guess it's not meant to be. Like, so then I quit. because I thought if you go to one audition and you
That's
don't
it.
get it,
It's over.
you're never going to be an actor.
You know, it's actually an interesting thing that you're bringing up that your parents didn't know. Because I talked to my wife about this, and you know, she has a BFA in theater, so she was studying for this, right? And even though she has an official degree, and you know, she studied it at really good college, she was in Fresno. Oh no, hold on. She was in Fullerton.
Right.
She was in Fullerton, so she received BFA in acting there. But she's telling me that only if her parents knew how exactly this business worked, because she has some examples from even her hometown where parents were just religious, bringing their kid to Hollywood for auditions again and again and again, and he ended up making it in some, you know, really well-known kids projects, and then he ended up becoming an actor. Not because he was necessarily better, but just simply because he was showing up and his parents knew the protocol.
Yeah.
So like it's just so important for the parents to kind of know.
Yeah, and you know, the way I look at it, it wasn't meant to be at that time because I totally quit acting. I thought it was like a silly ambition for like somebody where I was from, because I'm from the middle of nowhere, like countryside. So the nearest city was hours away. There's only one famous actor where I'm from. That's Brian F. O'Byrne. He's in like $1 Million Baby. He's in Brotherhood, Oz. You know, he's a big actor now. Like he always plays cops. But he's the only one that I knew of who was from where I was from. So it was like kind of pie in the sky to pursue it. So then I quit, and then fast forward.
That's a big break, 13 to 30.
Yeah. So like fast forward to when I was 30. When I was younger, I had a problem with drinking and drugs. You know, I was a mess for a lot of years, and I got sober when I was 28. And then after I got sober, my plan was to work in construction. You know, I was a carpenter, and you know, I built houses. And my plan was to become a general contractor, just frame houses in San Francisco. I thought that was my future.
Right.
And when I got sober and I got my act together, that's what I had planned on spending the rest of my life at.
Right.
And when I was 29, I had an accident on a construction site. I was doing a remodel on a house, and a beam fell down and hit me, and I broke my back. Oh my God. And my back is permanently damaged. So I had to quit working as a carpenter because I can't do physical work anymore. So I lost all my money, lost my job. I really didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And I used to go to, I still go to recovery meetings to stay sober. And I was out of ideas, and this girl that I knew told me I should be a model. And I thought that was kind of ridiculous because I was 30. You know, I've had my nose broken a lot of times. This is a fake tooth. You know, I wasn't not model material. You know,
not a traditional type of model.
No, definitely
You were ahead
not.
of your times, man. You were ahead of your times when now, you know, regular people could become models.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe you started a trend.
Yeah, maybe. But she told me I should be a model, and I was broke, and I needed money, and I was like, I'll try anything. Yeah. So I sent off some pictures to some agencies, and I got signed to a modeling agency. I couldn't believe it. It was kind of crazy. So I did modeling for like a short amount of time, and then I was on this modeling website, and the director saw my picture, and he asked me to be in a film that he was making. And he says, I need someone to play a German gangster, and don't take this the wrong way, but you have that look about you. And when I was young, I used to actually be a gangster before I got sober. I was involved in all kinds of crazy stuff. So I still have that look, and I didn't tell him that I was at the time. But so I took this role, and that's how I got my first acting role, and I really enjoyed it. And then I was like, I'm going to try this now. I'm going to try and be an actor. So I started like going to acting classes and doing background work on sets, and that's how I got into it. And I've been doing it now 12 years, and it's been going well. You know, the roles have got bigger. I moved to LA, and here I am.
Have you ever had any regrets that, God damn, I'm 30 and I seem to be pretty good at this, and now I have a shot. What if I were to do it all the way from 13 to 30? Have you ever had any kind of thoughts of that nature? I know they're destructive, but like we're all human, you know.
Well, yeah, it would have been nice if I knew back then what I knew now. Like back then, I thought if you do one audition and you don't get it, you're not supposed to be an actor. But now I know some people have to do hundreds of auditions before they even get one job, you know, and that's normal, you know. So I wish I knew that information, but at the same time, if I didn't go down the road I went, I wouldn't have the experiences I have, and I wouldn't look like what I look like now. Like, you know, like these are bite marks on my nose from when someone has bitten me in the face before, you know. And when I'm acting, I always play bad guys. Like that's the role I always get.
Does it bother you?
No.
That you're always a bad guy. You mentioned, you know, somebody from somewhere around your hometown, right? Like he had a type. He was always a cop. You
Yeah, he
mentioned,
looked
right?
like a cop. Yeah.
Right. So you play gangsters a lot of the time. Does it bother you?
No, it could be worse because the way it is in acting, most actors have what's called an archetype. So an archetype is what you as a person look like. And I could be bad guy, I could be leading man, who's like the star, the handsome dude who gets the girl. I could be fat guy, fat funny guy. I could be nerd. You know, there's all kinds of archetypes. So it could have been worse. Like bad guy's okay, you know.
You know, it's funny because my wife would bring me this story and would tell me this story about, because we would talk about my English, and she's like, "Oh my God, your English is so much better than my teacher from the acting school, right?" And you know, later on, we just came to realize that she's probably not losing her accent because she always plays this type of a, you know, really cold Russian chick that would like either be a ice skating coach or like a gangster type of thing or like the schmuggy type of criminal. And she always plays the same thing. She always talks with the same Russian, very, very strong accent. But you know, it's not about the ability to learn language. Like that's her type. That's what she does.
Yeah, like Arnold Schwarzenegger is the tough guy. You know, who else have you got? Like Jason Clarke. He's always kind of a politician kind of a role, like a leader. And then you have like character actors who just transform.
Yeah.
You know, and I can transform too because I do a lot of accents. I can just hear them, and I have an ear for accents. So that helps me. I play Russians a lot. I play British. I play German. Mostly bad guys, and American as well, because I can just do the accents. It's just something I've always been able to do.
Yeah.
So that does help versatility. You know.
How about LA? How did LA ended up in your horizon? Because at that point in time when you started doing acting, my understanding is you were still in San Francisco.
Yeah.
How did you end up in LA, and why LA?
Well, so basically, if you want to be a professional actor, and if you're in America, you have to either go to New York or LA, because they're the primary markets. So I was in San Francisco, which is a secondary or even a third market, because your secondary markets would be like Atlanta, Toronto, Vancouver. These would be kind of like second cities, because the way the decision makers work in Hollywood, they'll nearly always pick the leads, like the stars of every project will be based out of LA or New York, because they're the most competitive markets. They're like number one. That's where like all the big stars usually live. And it's kind of like if you're like an American football player, you'll start off at college football, and then you want to go to the NFL,
Right.
you know, because it's the top level. And it's
So LA sort of
it is the top level.
top
yeah.
league.
And like in America, New York or LA, or in Europe, London would be. You know, so basically, if you can come to the top markets and compete, because it's a competition. You know, it's like a lot of people think that it's you know, that it's mysterious, and it is kind of mysterious in some ways, but there's a very specific system. And when you come to one of these top markets, and if you can compete here and you can book roles here, then this is the highest level. So I started in San Francisco. There was some small productions when I was there. A lot of them were non-union. They didn't pay a lot of money, but it's actually easier to book stuff in these smaller markets because it's less competitive.
So there's less people that are doing it, and even though there's less projects,
The level,
you can have,
the level of ability isn't as good there because the top people come to the top cities, So it's like say if you're an actor and you're starting off in America, it will be a good idea to start in a secondary market like Atlanta or
Interesting.
San Francisco or Louisiana to a lesser extent, you know, these kind of places.
So you can basically get some work done where in LA or New York, it would take you a long, long time to break into even small projects to get some kind of exposure.
Potentially, yeah, because it's so competitive, because there's so many people here. But it has changed a little bit since the pandemic. Like when I first came to LA in 2013, it was almost always in-person auditions. So before you get an agent or a manager, you do self-submissions. So there's like some casting websites, Actors Access, LA Casting, or Casting Networks, depending where you are. It's the same company, Casting Networks. So there's LA Casting and Actors Access, and you create profiles on there. You put on your photos, your resume, and your footage if you have any. And before you have an agent or a manager, you can self-submit on roles, which means there's a list of what's called breakdowns. A breakdown is an acting role. Every project has, each of the characters has their own breakdown. Like you would be Oleg, 30s, Ukrainian.
I was called flamboyant Denis.
No, I would put maybe if you were a breakdown, I would say Oleg, 30s, Ukrainian.
Let me make some notes, because what if I decided to go for it?
Yeah, sharp dresser, good at sales, polished. You know, that's what you would use as your description. And every role has a description. That's the breakdown.
And if you have like an overlap
exactly.
with the characteristics, you kind of have a better chance in applying
so
and
like,
actually getting
if somebody looks like an Oleg, then your best bet is to go for that role. But if the role is a 50-year-old black man who can roller skate, that's probably not going to be you. You're not going to get that one. You know?
You know me so well. Roller skating is definitely not my forte. So you know me really well.
So each of the roles have a breakdown. Even like the star roles, like the big projects, $200 million movies, they all have breakdowns for every single character. So when you're starting off, the small projects with low money or non-union, you can self-submit. So you go online, you log in, and then you like new roles come out all day, every day. So 10 o'clock, there might be 5 new roles. 12 o'clock, there might be 20.
It's almost like applying for a job.
Yeah, exactly. They come out all the time, and you have to be logged in. And if you see one that you're good for, you apply, and it sends your profile off to the people who are doing the casting. So the casting director is the person who's in charge of finding the actors. So there's casting directors on the little projects and the big ones. You know, like there's like a hierarchy that you'll have the top casting directors and the ones who don't do as big a projects. The same as with acting roles. There's stuff that will be for stars only. Or somebody like Leonardo DiCaprio, they wouldn't audition anymore at all. They would be what's called offer only. That means they don't have to audition. People just come to them and go, "Oh, Leo, I want you to be the star of this project," and he goes yes or no. You see,
So the disposition of power kind of changes.
Exactly. That's like the top of the level where you're offer only. You know, but when you're starting and you have no agent and no manager, you're going for these small projects and you have to self-submit every day. And so, say you send off one of your applications for a job, you'll have all your photos on your profile. So say if it's a cop role, you'll pick one of your photos that looks like a cop. You know, and that's the photo that will that's the photo that will go for your role. And then the casting director will be looking through all the submissions as they come in. And then if they like your look, they'll decide to look at your profile and they'll see your experience and maybe your footage. And they go, "Oh, I like this guy. I'll bring him in for an audition." So in the old days, when you got an audition, they would give you a date. Well, the old days was like 2019, because it's changed since the pandemic. Like the pandemic changed everything with auditions. Before the pandemic, you really had to live in LA for the most part.
So like this picture that I have in mind is this really, really long line of people standing, all kind of looking the same because they're auditioning for this role. Does that have anything to do with reality? Or
That's.
I kind of doing Donald Trump over here. So I don't know. I don't know why am I starting to do that.
I think your hands are bigger than his, but So in the old days before pandemic, you got an appointment to come for an audition. So they'll say, okay, Oleg, I want you to come in on Tuesday at 2 o'clock to this building, an office in Hollywood or wherever, and you say yes or no, and you confirm the appointment and you learn your lines. They'll send you like a partial script, maybe between 2 or sometimes up to 10.
Is that the hardest part? Because, like, for me as a dummy that doesn't know anything about acting, when people tell me like, oh, I needed to like learn my lines and it's 20 pages, like that scares me off, and I'm thinking there's no way I would remember this. Like that automatically cancels me out as an actor. Is that the hardest part or no?
It's a hard part, but there's so many other things. For most people, there's no shortcut to memorization. Like, they tell you don't have to be memorized. They'll say you don't have to be memorized, but you really do.
Yeah.
Because when you have memorized the materials, you'll be so comfortable compared to somebody who doesn't know the lines, you know?
Right.
So they tell you don't have to memorize them, but you really do. And there's no unless you have a photographic memory, there's no short way of doing it. You have to run it 20 or 30 times before you know it. That's how many times I will run it, between 20 and 30 times. But that's just memorization. You also have to study the text and maybe plan ahead for what you might wear, because you want to, and how you might dress, or you might want to change your look depending on the role. Like if it's a cop role, you might want to wear something that would be similar to what a cop would wear. Like I'm wearing a t-shirt right now, probably not going to show up for a cop role in this kind of a t-shirt unless it's maybe a SWAT team. You know, those guys will wear t-shirts, but if it's a uniform cop, you'll probably wear a button-up. So there's a lot of things you have to think of, but yeah, memorization is really important. And for me, I have to, once I get a script, after I study it, like I'll read it through a few times and study the text, because it's a mystery. When you get this script, you're trying to figure out who is this person, what does he want, and drama always has turns. So a turn is when everything seems to be going fine, and then something changes, where you have to have a reaction.
Right.
So you can't just memorize the lines without studying the script, because you don't know what you're memorizing until you study it first. You know, but yeah, the memorization it's time consuming. Some people have photographic memories; they can do it like really quickly. Good for them. I can't do that.
God bless
them. Yeah. So you'll get your script, you'll study it, and then before pandemic, you'd show up at the building, you sign in, you wait in line, and if you're Oleg, there's gonna be 10 other Olegs all waiting in line. But just to get the audition, like, you probably have to be in the top 40 or 50, because
top 40 or 50.
Yeah.
Just to get an audition.
Just to get an audition, because like, depending on your age group and your race, will depend on how many people are in your pool.
Right.
So like, say if you're African American or Asian, there's less actors in your category, so the numbers aren't as high.
Right.
But if you're a white man or a white woman between the ages of like 20 and 30, they're the biggest groups. So for every role I go for, there's like between 4,000 and 5,000 submissions for just one role. So there's one job. And
that's insane.
Yeah, so that's the numbers you're dealing with, especially at the start. Because once you have a resume and experience and credits, it's easier to get the job. At the start, when you have nothing, it's really difficult just to even get an audition, you see? Like, it'll help if you have a specific look.
Right.
You know, like some looks are rarer than others. You know what I mean? Like, say if they want a bald guy with a crooked eye, there's not a lot of people who look like that. So if you have a specific look, you're easier going to get an audition.
Wow.
So the casting director only has a certain amount of time. They can only see so many people. So, like, maybe before pandemic, they would call maybe 40 or 50 people in for the audition. Each person who comes in, they have 10 to 15 minutes. So it's based on how many days they have available to cast the role. And if it's TV, it has to be cast really quickly. Like,
because there's more characters, there's more turnaround.
It turns around quicker. Like, I had an audition this weekend that shoots next week. You know, yeah. But if it's a movie, I could have an audition and they could call me back 3 months later. So TV casts really quickly, you know. So they call you in, everybody auditions, and then the casting director will pick the top 3 or 5 the best ones. And the top 3 or 5 goes to producers. So the producers are the people who are putting the project together. They're like the decision makers of every TV show
So
or every
casting
movie.
directors, they kind of pre-approve people.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Their job is to find people for the producers, and the producers and the director are the decision makers. But in TV, it's mostly the producers who are the decision makers, because in TV you usually have a guest director for every couple of episodes, unless it's somebody like Taylor Sheridan who directs all of his stuff.
Interesting.
The majority of directors are guests as well, so the producers are the decision makers. So the casting director will pick the top 3 or 5, the best ones that they think, and they'll send them to producers. And the producers will look at them and they'll go, I like this guy, I don't like this guy, I like this, you know.
Right.
And then they'll pick their top 1, 2, or 3, and then they'll say, okay, I like these guys. Check if they're still available. And they'll contact you or your agent and see if you're still available for the dates.
Right.
And then they'll have pictures of all the actors up on a board, and they're not just looking at your performance or your.
They're trying to see if it works together.
Yeah,
probably.
how does this guy work with this guy? We have 2 blondes, maybe not. This guy is taller than the other guy.
Yeah, but by the time you're selected, you probably feel like an Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah, you literally have a 1 in 5,000 chance of booking a role.
goodness.
That's from just a submission. And if you live in LA, you have more chance of getting shot with a gun than booking an acting job. Because I'm into statistics, right? So if you check online to see how many people are shot in LA every day,
Right.
you kind of have to look because they cover it up a little bit. But if
You're into some weird stuff.
yeah, but so check this out, right? So if you look online, you can find that 3 people are shot in LA every day. Not necessarily killed, but shot with a gun. So that's 900 people a year, right? And what's the population of LA? Million point
City of
something.
LA?
Yeah, Los Angeles County.
Okay.
So if you
LA
divide the number of shootings by the number of people for 1 year, I think you have like a 1 in 3 or 4,000 chance of getting shot. So you have more chance of booking an acting job than you do of getting shot.
Goodness. That's so funny.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this. So since we're talking about the chances, because LA is the city of chances, I feel like. So when people come over here and they're thinking about the career in acting, right? I feel like maybe that's the place where we live right now. We're in Toluca Lake, Burbank is right there, Hollywood is right there, right? So the dreams are basically being made happen, right, over here. But when somebody comes to LA and they think that they want to start in acting, knowing what you know right now, like, what are the 5 steps you would recommend them do in what sequence?
The 5 so say you want to be an actor.
So let's just say I want to be an actor. I've never done anything. I'll tell them I was present when they were filming something and I was an extra. It was like 8 or 9 years ago.
Right.
I was in that house in Encino. I don't know, maybe I'm a star right now, but they still haven't sent me a check. But that's all the exposure that I've ever had to acting. So like, let's just say I'm 36. I'm a little late by your schedule, but nonetheless, let's just say I want to be an actor. What do I do?
Okay, so here's what you do. Number 1, you need training, right?
Okay.
Because so everybody has some amount of natural talent as an actor. Like, some people have a lot, some people have a little.
Right.
But no matter how much natural talent you have, you still need to study the craft of acting. So a lot of people are good at pretending to be somebody else, but it's more than that. You have to know how
Criminals we're talking about.
Well, no, even someone who's joking around,
Right.
If you make fun of your friends and you can copy your friends. I was good at that kind of stuff, I do imitations like. So that's your natural talent. But then to become an actor, you have to study the craft of acting. So there's acting for stage and then there's acting for camera. So you need to be able to portray that in a convincing way so that the audience believes you. Some people can just jump into believing the role straight away. Some people need to do tricks with themselves to make themselves feel angry or sad or whatever.
Right.
So if you go to acting school, you will learn how to harness these emotions and be able to portray it. And then also for camera's like really, really intimate. Like acting on stage is different from acting on camera. When you're on stage, you have to be like loud and project so that the person in the
Right.
back of the theater can hear what you're saying. But on camera, it's really intimate, and you have to be able to do it subtly, and so it can read on a camera. You know, so you want to study the craft of acting. You want to study how to analyze the text. Like I was saying, it's all about script. So it's the majority of acting stuff is not improv. Improv is when you make it up on the spot.
Right.
Yeah, like some comedy is kind of improv. Like Will Ferrell does that kind of improv stuff in his movies.
Really good guy, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, is he?
I've dealt with him
that's cool.
on several occasions.
No way.
At the soccer at
yeah.
LAFC. And his son was actually playing soccer, so I coached his
Really?
son a couple times.
No
Really good
way.
guy. I call him. I didn't know it was him. I was like, "Hey, can you give me the ball?" And he gives me the ball because somebody kicked it out. And I'm like, "I think I've seen this guy." And my wife goes, "This is Will Ferrell."
Wow. How old is the kid?
The kid was like 10 years old, but it was like
no
5
way.
or 6 years ago. So it was a while ago.
That's cool.
Really good family.
I heard he owns a house where I'm from in Ireland, which is really bizarre because it's the middle of nowhere. But I heard he has a house in Cavan.
Man, that's
I told one of my buddies, I was like, Will Ferrell has a house near where I'm from. And my buddy says, did he ever see a map of Ireland? You know?
Anyway, let's come back to our topic. So number one, I need to get some
You
training.
need to study your craft.
So that's number one.
Number one, you need to study your craft.
Number
And
two.
Then number two, if you're in LA or if you're outside of LA.
Let's just say I'm in LA.
Okay, if you're in LA, so you would study your craft, so you would find out what the best schools are that you can afford, and you go there.
Right.
Because there's a snobbiness with agents and managers and producers and casting directors, and they'll look at your resume and they'll go, oh, where did Oleg study? Oh, that's impressive. Okay, he must
So
be
let's just say
good.
I'm in Lee Strasberg.
Yeah.
So I finished Lee Strasberg on Fairfax and,
Yeah.
and La Brea.
Yeah,
So
that's
number
like
two step.
Yeah, that's like validation. That means Oleg is good. He takes his craft seriously. He went to
Okay.
his good school, so they produce good people, right?
Good deal. So number two, what do I do
So number
next?
two, you would get some photographs taken.
Okay.
Or in acting world, you call them headshots because they're a photo of your head. Yeah. So
Photo of my head.
you photo of your head, headshot.
Lovely.
So in the old days, headshots used to be black and white, but now they're color, right? So before you get the headshots, you want to try and figure out what your type is. So my type is bad guy. So I want to get some bad guy looking headshots. So what does that
Right, and
mean?
it's important because if you're a bad guy and you're presenting the headshots that are just looking all sleek and stuff
Yeah.
like that, it might be a little bit of a
Yeah,
disconnect there.
Yeah, your headshots are a tool to sell you. And you have to get clear about what your type is before you start marketing yourself, because you might see yourself as something different from everybody else. And if you're in a good acting school, they'll tell you at the start what your type is.
Okay.
And when I went to acting school, they were like, this guy looks like a bad guy. You're going to be
Yeah.
a bad guy. So it was
The
clear to me.
schmucks are over there. Could you stand there?
Yeah, exactly. So I knew I was going to be a bad guy. So I got bad guy headshots. So that's like looking mean and
Yeah.
you
The
know,
hair may be messed up.
yeah, or
The
scruff.
imperfections are good.
Yeah, or just mean look, you know. So you get some headshots of whatever your type is. If you're a hot girl, you want to get some hot girl headshots.
Right.
You know, whatever it is.
You want to squeeze some boobs in there.
Yeah,
in the
but
headshot.
well, yeah, it depends. Like you know, but you want to sell what you're selling
Right.
with your headshots. So once
that's
you
number two.
Number two is get your headshots right.
Number three.
Number three is you want to get footage of yourself. If you're in LA, you really want footage. If you're in a secondary market, you might not necessarily need footage because the competition is so low that
You're gonna get the role.
you could still get
without
you
it.
could still get an audition with no footage in some place like San Francisco, but if you have footage, that's the next thing you want. So if you've never been on a TV show or anything like that, where do you get footage? You shoot it yourself, like what we're doing here with the cameras. So
That's why I'm doing this.
yeah. This is gonna be a reel. So yeah, you want to get footage, and it gets edited into what's called a reel, or in England they call it a show reel. So footage is just seeing what you look like on camera. The way I did it at the start, you get a script or you write something, and then you get your buddy to shoot it with you, and then you get a professional to tape it and edit it for you, and then you want like a minute or a couple of minutes of you on camera so that they can see what you do.
Right.
So once you have your headshots and your footage, they're like essential tools, right? Once you have those, you go on the websites.
So that's number 4 we got.
No, well, you've classes,
We have classes, headshots,
and footage, and then
and
number
reels.
4.
Number 4.
No, footage is your reel.
Right. So that's
That's
right,
3.
Right,
So
that's 3.
school, headshots, footage,
Right.
right? Once you have that, then you're ready to create a profile online. So all of the acting jobs, either by self-submission or later when you get an agent or a manager, because all the good stuff is agent or manager only. Like
Okay.
all the big shows that pay lots of money, all the union stuff, you unless it's something really rare, like if you're a little person or maybe an albino or something like that,
Right.
that's like super rare, you'll need an agent to get a job, like, because there's so many people, and the agents are also another filter to try and get the best people. So all the big stuff is agent only. So either way, you need a profile online, whether you have an agent or not. So you create a profile on Actors Access and LA Casting, right? If you're in LA.
Those are the biggest ones.
Those are the biggest ones, yeah. So what happens, you go on there, you upload your photos, you upload your footage, and then your resume. So your name, your height, where you went to school, if you have any credits. And like, when people are new, they have no credits.
Right.
So what do? You can make up credits when you're new.
There you go.
Everybody does that. I heard.
Seriously.
Yeah. Because like, nobody wants to give you your first job, so you can...
Right.
So everybody makes up stuff at the beginning. So
You got to get in somehow.
Yeah, you have to get your foot in the door. Like, so you put all that stuff on your profile, and then your profile is ready to go. Okay, so then you're ready to start auditioning.
So that's number 4, and number 5 is
Number 5 is if you're a total beginner starting out of nowhere.
Yes.
Then you start self-submitting. So self-submitting, that's before you have an agent or a manager. You log on. The way I used to do it, the best way to do it is every like couple of hours, because it's time sensitive. So when a breakdown comes out, the casting director is going to be looking at the submissions as soon as they come in. They want 40 or 50 people for the audition, and then they can move on to the next role.
So if you're
like
51st,
Yeah.
you might be perfect for the role, but
Exactly.
you just already missed it.
Yeah. Or if you wait a couple of days before applying,
Yeah.
unless you're a little person or an albino, somebody who's really unusual, then you're
Kind of starting to want to be like a little personal albino
well, you know, it's,
to get some roles.
it's
now.
about the numbers, you know.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So if you're just like regular average person, you want to try and submit as quick as possible. So you just start applying online, and then the auditions start coming in, and then you prepare your audition, you tape it, and you send it in. Like I said, before the pandemic, you had to go to the building and audition.
And now it's mostly
Now it's all what's called self-tapes.
Okay.
So that means you tape the audition yourself in your home, or you go to one of these businesses that records you and you pay them money. You'll get your script, you learn your lines, you study the role, you prepare it, and then when you're ready to shoot, you need somebody off camera to read you the other lines. So you're only reading the lines of your role,
Right.
and somebody else has to read the other lines. So you'll record it, edit it, and then upload it to their system, and then cross your fingers, and then hopefully you get called for an audition.
So those are your 5
Yeah.
steps. I wanted to come back to something that we briefly touched on and kind of elaborate on that a little bit. Education and the need of education in acting in general, because there's obviously acting courses that last, a couple of weeks, couple of months. There is acting schools that last couple of years. There is a formal degrees in acting, in theater that last, 3, 4, 5 years, right? And you could end up getting BFA, master's degree.
Yeah.
How important acting is, and is there the best length of acting? Because I feel like a lot of the time, it's not one of those professions where you absolutely need to have, 7 years of education in order to become a doctor, for example, or a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
There's no threshold that you absolutely need to cross in order, at least for me as a dummy, I don't know of a threshold. So how important the education is, and is there sort of a middle ground on how much education you need to get so you're ready and you actually can start putting your efforts into real world efforts and start getting roles?
Well, here's the thing, right? It depends on your age. If you're a young person, 19, 18, and if you decide at a young age that you want to become an actor, it can be very important.
Okay.
The reason being, if you can get into one of the good acting schools, where it's like one of the top ones, like in England it would be like Royal Academy for Dramatic Arts, or in America, in New York, it would be like Tisch. Even Yale has a good one. Like if you could get it, if you're young and you're sure that you want to be an actor, I would try and get into one of those schools. The reason being, what happens at the end of your school, all of the big agencies, like the top ones, in Hollywood, there's a hierarchy of agencies.
Okay.
The top ones are like William Morris, CAA, UTA. Those kind of ones are like the elite. Real Madrid.
Yeah.
They're like if there were a soccer team, they'd be like Barcelona, Real Madrid, Man City.
Top
like
tier.
those are like the absolute elite American agencies, right? So what they do is their agents go to the top schools to try and find the best young talents. So if you're a young person and you know for sure you want to be an actor and you can get into one of the top schools, it could be worth your while, because you could be picked up from a very young age and you could start the very top. And then, because what happens is the older you get, the more big resume they expect you to have.
Yeah.
So I'm in my 40s now, right? So they expect me to have some credits at this age. The older you get, if you have no credits, it's going to be way more difficult, But when you're young, you're just out of school, they don't expect you to have any credits. So credit is like a role in a big show or a big movie. Yeah. If you're a young person and you go to one of these top colleges, you have no credits because you're just a kid, but these big agencies will go and scoop you up from the school. That's like dream scenario if you're young. Like obviously everybody who goes to these schools doesn't get picked up, but there's a good chance you can get in at the very top from a young age if you do that.
You're basically being watched.
Yeah. It's like the NFL have scouts that go to college football. They want the
top. But those are top colleges. They're not just going to like Los Angeles City College where
they could be, but
3 people might be playing hockey.
So
they're going to top schools where mathematically chances are higher to have top performers.
It's like that. So if you're a young person and you have the opportunity to do that, I would totally do it, because you never know. You could be really lucky.
Right.
But a lot of people aren't that young when they decide to become an actor. So if you're a bit older, it probably would not be worth your while going to one of these conservatories, because you could just go to like a private acting school or study somewhere else. And if you're not at one of those top tier places from the beginning, you can either do it or you can't, kind of thing. So if you can get the audition, you can show them how good you are, you don't have to have gone to Yale. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, Oleg's really good. Look at how good he did this audition. So if you're a little bit older, or maybe if money's an issue or it's not possible, you could save the money and just go somewhere else to a different school and try it that other way.
And then your way is pretty much just to get your foot in the door in any way possible.
Exactly. And the way it is, like, so I got here in 2013 to LA, and I've been with a litany of different agencies and managers. Like I said, there's about 300 agencies and there's probably about 300 managers.
300
Yeah. So like there's thousands and thousands of actors, and each of these agencies will have a couple of hundred people on their roster. So I started off at small ones and I got to bigger ones and bigger ones and bigger ones. The better you do and the more stuff you can book, you can kind of climb the ladder, you see?
And I know you're into statistics, and you mentioned that statistically it's very improbable to become an actor in Los Angeles, right? There's more chances for you to get shot. But I'm wondering, why the hell so many people come to Los Angeles trying to become actors? I mean, I think people understand that it's incredibly difficult, or maybe they don't. I'm curious to hear your opinion, but with all of this difficulty, why do you think so many people come to Los Angeles and it never stops? Whether the union is on a strike or not, people just keep on coming with an idea of becoming actors. Why do you think that is?
Well, here's the thing, right? That's what the numbers are. But even though those are the numbers, you have to have kind of belief in yourself. Like, I know those are the numbers for every role I go for, But I still, a lot of the times, I can believe that I can book the role. So you kind of have to have self-confidence that you can do it. That's one thing in terms of the numbers. But to answer your question, like why do actors come here or why do people want to be an actor? I think there's two reasons. So I think there's some people who just want attention. They want to be famous. Okay? And that's why they want to be an actor. That's one group. And I think the other group are people who just love telling a story and performing. And it's not about being famous necessarily, but it's like you get joy out of performing and being a character and telling the story. Like that's why I do it. That's why I love it. Like, it's fun. You know, like I've met people who like I've been on their favorite show and they think it's like the coolest thing ever because they might like have a pretty boring life and they might not be happy in their job or they might live in the middle of nowhere or you don't know what's going on in somebody's life, but they have their favorite shows and it brings them so much joy. And I get a buzz out of like being able to help tell that story. I don't care if I'm famous or not. I just like performing. So I think those are the main reasons why someone becomes an actor. They either want to be famous or they just love the craft, they love performing, they love telling the story.
I think the part of it is from somebody that just watches it from the side. I think the part of it lays in the fact that there's no objective things that could say you're a good actor, you're not a good actor. It seems like almost an even field where everybody could come in and play. I mean, you can't really imagine somebody coming into the NFL, right, and saying, you know what? I want to be a football player, right? There's some kind of path that the person needs to go through in order to become, you know, professional soccer player or a gymnast, right?
Well, no, that's actually...
With acting, a lot of people feel like, you know what? Like, I'm hearing the stories from Hollywood that you can just come in and if you're talented, you got a chance, you got a shot.
That's true, but like everybody thinks it's a mystery. Like Oleg just comes off the street and they make him the star of a movie. That usually doesn't happen. Even in like say soccer or NFL, right? Say you want to play for the Chargers or like the Giants or somebody good, right? There's a very specific path to do that.
Right.
Like I said with the acting, you could go to Yale or Tisch or Royal Academy or one of these places, and then there's a chance that the Chargers will pick you up. Right. You know, that's one way. So if you compare it to football, you could become a high school football star and then a college football star, and then the big people get you. But it's the same thing in the acting, right? So the equivalent of like being a college star would be going to Tisch or going to one of these big colleges, and then you get picked up by one of the big teams or the big agencies, right? But there's also other ways. Like I said, there's 300 agencies, right? There's like the top ones that give out the top roles, and there's lower ones and lower ones and lower ones and lower ones. There's actually not that much mystery to it. I had an acting teacher when I first came here, and I would, like, if you want to be a TV star, it's called a series regular. So a series regular is in almost every episode. They get a lot of money. It's like the elite. You have enough money for a house on the hill, you know. But in order to, how do you get there? Yeah. So there's like unwritten rules, right? So the way it is for roles, there's background or extras, right? They're the bottom of a movie set of the actors, right?
That's what I've done. Yeah, that's my active background.
So that's that's like the bottom, right? And then so in TV, right? Above that you have a co-star. A co-star means you have 5 lines or less in the show. Like imagine if you're a bartender and you go, "Hi sir, here is your drink." That could be your role.
There you go.
That's a co-star.
I see myself in that role, man. I should apply.
And then above co-star you have guest star. Guest star means you're in one episode, but it's a bigger role. You're in multiple scenes. You're, you know, a big character. And then above guest star you have a recur. A recur means you're in more than one episode.
It means it's reoccurring role.
Yeah, reoccurring, a recur, yeah. So, and then above recur, the very top is series regular. So when I was new, like I used to go to this school, and I had a teacher called Alan. He was a great teacher, Alan Barton. And I was like, how do I get my first co-star? How do I get my first guest star? And he basically laid it out like this, unwritten rules. 5 co-stars will get you a guest star. 5 guest stars will get you a recur. 5 recurs will get you a series regular.
It's a numbers game, in a sense.
Well, basically, if you have 5 co-stars, then they'll consider you for a guest star. If you have 5 guest stars, they'll consider you for a recur. They're not like written in stone, but
course.
in general,
Right.
that's kind of what it is. And it's the same as, say, if you were in the NFL. Like, you could be playing for like one of the crappier teams, and then you become a star of that crappier
Yeah.
team, and then a better team gets you.
There's
You
a
know, so there's
certain body of work that you need to do.
there is, yeah, and there's some unwritten rules to how you can get above. Sometimes people jump from co-star to series regular just out of nowhere. There's always exceptions to the rule, but in general, that's kind of what you're looking at in order to get to the top.
Interesting. Let me ask you this, because I know a little bit about your life story, and I know that you've had a lot of interesting things happen to you throughout the years. How important it is to have rich life and to have been involved in many different things, to have done a lot of things with your life, to have seen a lot of things, to have lived in different places. How important it is to have this body of knowledge that you already have and body of experiences that you already have in order for you to be a good actor. In other words, can you still be a good actor and, maybe have always lived in the same town, has always done, one kind of job, and then you just want to become an actor? Is that even a possibility? Do you need to know so much and have gone through so much shit in your life in order to
Not
be a good actor?
necessarily. Like, especially if you're young, like somebody like who's a young actor in their 20s or their teens or whatever, nothing really might have happened to that person when they were young because they're so young. So, like someone like Tom Holland, when he started, when he was just a kid, he didn't have a lot of life experience, but he was able to like portray that, and so if you're younger, obviously you're not going to have any life experience, but and whether you've had the life experience or not, like I play bad guy, but I've been in some real life and death situations with bad people. Of course it's helpful because it's second nature to me, but like my other competitors, the other villains who I compete against for roles,
they could be good guys in real life.
Well, I'm a good guy in real life, but
You
like,
are a good guy in real life.
But you know what I mean. They haven't been in life or death situations or anything like that, but they can still do it. But
do you think there is an edge that you have where you actually can not just imagine what would it have been to like have your life threatened, but actually have been in this situation?
Of course, yeah, of course. Like obviously it helps for me because I've only been doing this since I was 30, and I've been in a ton of different stuff. So. Because when I started, I was 30, so people expected me to have 10 years worth of experience. Because if I started at 20, I would have a bunch of other credits from the past, but I didn't have that, but I could still catch up to the people who did. So obviously it worked for me, and it could work for somebody else, of course. Like, you do meet a lot of former cops. I've met a few former cops who are actors, and like their life experience gives them a certain
edge.
Something to pull from, Like one of my buddies, Brian, he's an actor from New York, and he used to be an undercover cop for years, and he like did that for years, and then he decided to become an actor, and he has a sort of a second nature from the stuff that he's been in.
That's so interesting. That's so interesting to see that being sort of a second career path for ex-cops. I was just I've been reading some books and I've been listening to some audiobooks, and like 2 out of the last 4 audiobooks that I listened to were written by ex-FBI agents. And I would never think that, that would be a possible career path for somebody from FBI, but it's like half of the books that I'm interested in right now have been written by ex-FBI agents. You would never think that, that would be a second career choice for them. So, for the cops, being actors, you would not imagine, but...
Yeah,
there's a need, I guess.
No, but not even. It doesn't even have to be an exciting job like a cop. Like, do you know the Irish actor Brendan Gleeson? He's a great actor, but like I think he was in his 40s when he started, and he was a teacher. He was a school teacher. He wasn't a cop or a villain, and he's great. Like,
now I understand that it's probably even crazier than what I thought. With all of this competitiveness, how many people do you think? What percentage-wise? How many people can actually afford being just actors and not have something else to support them out of 100% here in Los Angeles?
Well, it depends on what stage your career is at. If you're just coming in, there's no way you can support yourself as an actor, because it takes so long to establish yourself. Because when you're new, you have to build trust with like all the casting directors, the producers. They need, because there's big money at stake. Productions cost millions and millions of dollars. So you're taking a risk on every actor you hire.
Right.
So the people behind the camera, they might be able to be replaced a little bit easier, but an actor, like, they have a specific look. And so say if you're an actor in a show, Oleg is a recurring actor, and they start shooting with you, in order to replace you, they'd have to reshoot all the stuff they already shot. So they're putting a lot of, like, say if you're a PA or something, or a gaffer or a cameraman, and if you get sick, that's okay. They can bring in another PA or another cameraman who can do the exact same thing, and they don't have to reshoot anything. It does take a long time to establish yourself. So at the beginning, unless you come from wealth or whatever, you're going to need to do a separate job, or have some other kind of money coming in to support yourself. But even if you're at the top level, you could go through periods where things are quiet or dead, and you need to like think about how to support yourself. So to answer your question, I would say maybe 5%. Less than 5% of all the actors
can afford to just do acting and nothing else.
Yeah.
And if it's only 5%, which I think is a generous number, considering how many struggling actors are out there, why do you think there's still, I mean, at least it seems to me that there's still a stigma in the industry, and you know, a lot of people, I have some friends of mine that are into acting, and they have a very hard time admitting that they're still doing something else. Why do you think there's a stigma in the industry, and the stigma is still there among the peers, among people that are actors, and among, you know, hiring directors? Because those managers, those people that are, you know, on the other side of the camera, they understand those stats. They understand that only 5% of people making it as an actor and don't have to have a second job. But those are the same people that would judge you. And those are the same people that would not want to take a risk with you if you have a second job. Why is there such a disconnect? Why is there such a disconnect with reality in the acting world?
I think it's about ego. Like, because people have egos both judging other people and judging themselves. You know, like some people might come here and, you know, maybe they expect to become a star within a certain amount of time, and if it doesn't happen, maybe they feel like a failure, or maybe they feel like there's some kind of shame involved in having to do a second job. You know, I think it's about ego. And people who judge those who like have a second job, that's just like say if you're a construction worker, and you've no construction work at the moment, and you have to be a janitor or something to pay your bills and feed your kids. Nobody's gonna go, oh, Oleg's a janitor. You know, he couldn't make it as a construction worker.
Nobody would care.
Nobody would do that, because that's just mean.
And when it gets to acting, all of a sudden there's a stigma. All of a sudden, like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, so you were saying about people criticizing actors when they have to have a second job. Yeah, so part of it too is the media puts actors who are working up on this like pedestal where they're on red carpets and they're getting out of limousines and people are taking their photo and they're signing autographs and they're, you know, so people have this perception that this person is like set for life and they have millions of dollars, like, but they don't understand how much money they're actually really getting. And that money doesn't actually necessarily continue forever, or maybe they're bad with their money and then they have to like do something else then to support them. So there's a disconnect between what the general public believe that an actor makes and what they really make. So then, and plus, because when you're successful and everybody's like being nice to you, and I think there's a bit of schadenfreude with people. So it's, you know, when somebody's doing well and then something bad happens to them and people get joy out of the person failing, you know, like, oh, you thought you were hot stuff, you know, before, and then now you're doing,
I knew you're in shit.
Now you're waiting tables kind of thing. I think there's a bit of schadenfreude with it. You know.
But you mentioned money. Let's talk about money a little bit. How much do you think average actor makes in Los Angeles?
depends what level they're at. So
Okay.
so like background actors, they're probably making 200-300 a day from being an extra.
And how many days a month can you realistically work?
Some people are professional extras.
Professional
Some
extras.
people, they just do background work full time.
So you do 20 days.
Yeah, and they're making $300 a day plus overtime.
Okay.
They feed you. They might give you money for a costume change. Some people are making a living as an extra.
Okay.
But
So
the
you could make $6,000-$7,000.
Yeah, yeah. But
Okay.
see the thing is, if you want to be like a real extra, the decision makers don't consider background work as real acting. So like, if you were a background actor on all these big shows, a casting director doesn't care about that.
So
or
in
a
other words,
producer
you're
doesn't.
making money, you're paying
Yeah,
your bills, but
but
you're not considered.
the decision makers don't consider you to be a real actor, so it's not going to help your career to be background, you know. So and I've been on productions where like the background actors will get different food from the principal actors. You know what I mean? The principal actors might get the good food, and then the background actors get the
Whatever was left
Costco
after principal.
or the Costco pizza. You know, so
Which ain't bad,
There's
let's
nothing
be
wrong with.
honest.
I love Costco pizza. But yeah, so that's what a background actor makes. Then a co-star, like I said, 5 lines or under, in a union project, I think they get about, depending on the production, they get about 1,000 per day, right? Then a guest star,
But there's gonna be, sorry to interrupt you, but there's probably gonna be less work for the.
it depends.
the
I
second
know
time.
some people who do 30 co-stars a year.
Okay.
It really depends on what type you are, what demand there is for you, what your experience is. You know, some
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
people
yeah.
might get one co-star every 5 years. It really
Yeah, yeah.
depends on the person and where they're at. But
makes
that's what the
sense.
numbers are. You get about 1,000 a day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then so guest star, that means like one of the bigger roles where it's one episode. You get the most amount of money for network shows. So the free channels like Fox, ABC, NBC, those ones pay more money than Netflix, and they pay more money than cable. So the most amount of money is network. The second most is cable, so Showtime, HBO, and then the lowest
And then
amount
streaming.
the streaming is the lowest amount of money. They're the biggest productions and the most prestigious, but they get the least amount of money because it's a new invention. So streaming was invented a couple of years ago, and it started with
Yeah.
YouTube. So the union sets a minimum rate, the SAG, Screen Actors Guild Union. So when YouTube was the first streamer, so when YouTube came, everybody was like, oh, we don't know if it's going to catch on or not. So the bar was set really low.
Right.
And network TV has been around for a long time, so they have a high bar. So even though the biggest productions are streamers, and every actor wants to be on those ones because they're considered the elite stuff, they don't pay as much as network. So a guest star on network could pay you between 8,000 and 10,000 for one episode.
For one episode.
Yeah, and that could be between a week and 2 weeks, depending on your shoot schedule. Then a guest star on cable would be about 4,000 or 5,000, depending on the size of the role
4,000 or 5,000 per episode.
per episode. Yeah,
And
yeah.
that again could be.
Yeah, it could
week
be
or-
more. It could be more or less. You know, and so this is the minimums, and then a guest star on one of the streamers. I'm not sure. Like they increased it recently, but I think it's about 4,000 is the minimum per episode. So you could be on like a top Netflix show, and you might only get 4,000, but they're minimums. So once you've been around for a while, you can get what's called a quote, which means you get paid above minimum. So the more experience you have, the bigger name you have, you can get more money than minimum. It depends on the budget, and it depends on how badly they want you. But like, so say Tom Hanks sometimes does guest stars on Taylor Sheridan. There's no way he did that for 4,000. You know what I mean? Because he would have a quote.
Of course.
Yeah, so a lot of times quotes are kept secret, so you don't know what somebody's quote is unless they tell you or you hear about it.
Right.
But they're the minimums.
But it sounds to me like it's very difficult to calculate how much money you could make as an actor, just practically, because some of the wages you just mentioned, they're per day. Some of the wages you just mentioned, they're per episode, but film, and the episode could take different amount of time.
Well, no, usually an episode would never go on more than 2 weeks.
Okay.
And even in an episode, the chances of you being on it, so you don't work weekends, only Monday to Friday. So it's really unlikely you would have 10 days work in an episode. Very unlikely. Because you won't be in unless you're the star, you won't be in every scene.
Right.
Like, every TV show has an A storyline, a B storyline, and a C storyline. If you're just a guest actor, you're probably only going to be in one of those, A, B, or C. You see, so if you're a guest actor in an episode, you'll probably only do 5 to 6 days in a 2-week period. You know? But there's other good stuff, like if it's on location. So if you're a local, so if it's shot in LA and you live in LA, they don't have to pay you for the days you're off. But say if it's in another city and they're flying you to New York or Atlanta or wherever, if they fly you over there and you're not working for a couple of days, they have to pay you for those couple of days because you're not at home.
So they compensate your travel expenses. They also compensate the days when you
If
travel
you're-
as a working day.
Yeah, if you're on location, you can get more money even if you're not on those particular days.
But you know, with this kind of inconsistency, how do you usually budget when you're an actor? You know, I mean, I understand that you can probably budget more or less if you're an extra, right? If you're sort of a lower level actor, you can kind of understand, you know, how many days a week you could do it. But when you're an actor, I mean, do you have any tips for people that are getting in acting, or maybe they are in acting and they just can't figure it out on their own? How do you budget and actually stay afloat in order to do that?
So here's the thing, right? We're only talking about TV and film. There's a whole other world that I'm not really a part of. So commercials are and also voiceovers are like a big money maker for a lot of actors. I usually play bad guys, so I don't do a lot of commercials. They don't usually want a bad guy for a commercial. They usually want smiley, happy, beautiful people, you know. So a lot of actors will work on commercials too. And commercials are much harder to book than TV or film because they do what's called cattle calls. So like if you have no experience, no resume, just by what you look like, you could book a commercial much easier than a TV show. They do these cattle calls, which they bring in hundreds or thousands of people for a role.
You probably don't even have to study the lines or anything. They just kind of see whoever's.
It can be like, yeah, they have like their own rhyme and reason to it, but commercials can be really lucrative if it's like a national commercial or something like that. You could get 50,000 for like a couple of days work if you book a big commercial. So a lot of actors who do TV and film, especially if they're pretty people, they will go out for commercials as well. So commercials are, you could end up doing 5 commercials in a year, and that would give you enough money to live for a few years, you know? And some people are like, they only do commercials and they've never been able to break into TV and film. So I'm more of a TV and film guy. I've only done a couple of commercials. There's no demand for me in commercials, so I don't even audition for them. You know, but a lot of actors go out for commercials as well, or modeling, or a lot of them do voiceovers. And I'm good at doing voiceovers, but I don't have a voiceover agent, and it's kind of a small group, and it can be hard to break into. But if you have
because the ego is not a part of it, nobody can see you.
Well, no,
even if you're great as a voiceover actor, nobody can see you, so it doesn't satisfy the need for those people that
that's
are
part of
that.
That's part of it, but it's kind of an old boys club. Like if you can get in with voiceovers, you're in, kind of thing. And I haven't managed to break in there, but I haven't tried too hard yet.
I feel like with your talents of having an ability to speak in so many different accents, I mean, the voiceover could be very, very interesting. But it's probably like a different world, right?
Yeah, it's a different world. It would be nice actually, and if there's anybody listening out there who wants my voiceovers, you can contact me on
There you go. We're gonna put all of the information about Richie's agent.
No, but one of my close friends, Anthony Scordy, he's a British actor. He does a ton of voiceovers. He does video games. He does like audio books, and he makes a good living. He's a big actor, but he makes a good living as a voiceover guy. You know, so voiceovers can be a thing for people. Some people do modeling for extra money too. So they're like good ways of supplementing TV and film work. But then outside of that, you have like, there's like tons of actory jobs that like people do for side work. Like some people drive Uber, some people wait tables,
Right.
some people bartend, you know, some people mind kids. There's a ton of different like supplemental jobs that actors would have. And then some people are independently wealthy. They don't need to, there's actually a lot of realtors who are actors too.
Yeah.
Would you believe?
Yeah, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
It goes hand in hand. That's why I'm breaking in. This
Yeah.
is my plan.
We got you.
But you know, you mentioned something very interesting that I wanted to touch on. You mentioned that the voiceover is a very, very closed down type of club, which is not that easy to break into. Breaking into the acting in general, I think there's a lot of ideas that come from the outside that, you know, you can only break into the acting through sleeping with the producers or doing something like that. Is that true? Does it have any merit to it at all? Is there a possibility to break into acting without doing something like that?
Well, I've never done anything like that, and I've been breaking in, but I've totally heard of that happening.
Really?
Absolutely.
And is that more of a male, female, or it doesn't matter?
Well, from what I heard since the Me Too movement, it might not have been what it was in the past, but I've heard stories about doing inappropriate things for favors. Absolutely. Yeah.
Really? You mentioned before certain discrepancies and inconsistencies with the pay. You know, you could make a lot of money one day, you could not have any roles for the next couple of months. From the mental side of it, from the mental standpoint, how difficult it is to remain level-headed and to continue to persevere in this occupation where, you know, the finances, this is the big part of being successful doing whatever. And acting is not an exception to the rule here, right? You need to stay afloat in order to continue being in this industry. With the financial part being so dependent on the projects, how difficult it is to stay mentally stable and to continue to persevere within this industry.
Well, that's the thing. Like, that's why if you're one of those people who just wants to be famous, you're never going to be happy because you have to enjoy the work. You have to enjoy going for the roles, even if you don't get them.
Yeah.
It's not about the end result. If I get an audition for like something big, like a David Fincher project or something that I would love to get, even if I don't get it, and I'm probably not going to get it, I get a thrill out of getting to show them what I can do. You know, so it can't be about booking the job or the end result. So you have to calibrate your expectations, and you also have to have other things going on in your life so that the constant disappointment that gets you down, you have to have like relationships, you have to think about other ways of making money so that every audition you don't need the job so badly and your life is over if you don't get it. You know, I think it's important to be well-rounded. And it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years and years and years to get where you want to be, or you might never get where you want to be. It can't be about the end result. You just have to enjoy doing what you're doing in order to stay positive and happy and fulfilled. You know, it can't be about the end result.
And obviously, you're in this industry, so you are in contact with a lot of people that are in the same industry. Do you feel like average actor, do you feel like the majority of actors that you come across, are they happy? Because it seems to be a very difficult profession to be in for lots of different reasons. Do you feel like a lot of people that are your peers are just happy doing this, or do you feel like they're just miserable trying to pursue something that's so difficult to achieve?
Well, yeah, a lot of people are unhappy because, like we said before, maybe only 5% of all the actors make a living out of it. So that means 95% of the people don't get that. I've been in LA since 2013. It's 2024 now. So since I've been here, I've met a lot of people who've came and left. They come for a while, they try it out, they figure out it's not for me, or or they're disappointed and they just decide to do something else. So because of the low success rate, there's going to be a lot of disappointed people. A lot of people came here to LA and they just expected to become movie stars within a certain amount of time, and then if it doesn't happen for them, you either have to either persevere and keep doing it and try and keep yourself happy and sane, or you have to like come to a conclusion that I made the wrong decision. It's not possible for me to do it, or I don't want to go through all this rejection. You know, a lot of people take it personally if they're rejected for a role. Like, but I don't think about it like that. It's like if you're a woman and you're going to a wedding and you have a green dress and you need a green pair of shoes to go with that green dress. You can go into a store and you can see a lovely pair of blue shoes or red shoes. So great shoes, but they're not going to go with this dress. You need green shoes. So when I audition for a role, I give it 100% every time. I give them my best work and I show them what I can do. But if they don't give me the role, it's not because I've done something bad or I'm not good enough. They're looking for a green pair of shoes. I'm a blue pair of shoes for this dress. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't take it personally when I don't get something. Like, I do my best work, try and knock it out of the park, show them what I can do, and then I'm happy because I've done my part. And if they want to hire me or not, that's their own decision, and I don't take it personally. So if you have that kind of an attitude, then that's a healthy way to be. But a lot of people don't have that kind of attitude. And a lot of people come here and they put all their eggs in one basket and they don't have any kind of secondary income or something else to do. So there can be a lot of disappointment for a lot of people. So I think if you do decide to become an actor and you have to come with this kind of an attitude, you know. So yeah, you'll meet a lot of different people in LA who are working in restaurants or bars and they came here to be a movie star and it didn't happen for them. And maybe they're unhappy or maybe they got into drink or drugs or, you know. So there's only a certain number of jobs. A small percentage of people can get those jobs. It's difficult. Like say if you want to be a doctor, you go to school for 8 or 10 years or whatever it is, and once you have your qualifications, you'll get a job somewhere as a doctor.
Right.
You know, you might have to go to Kansas or wherever.
You'll get it.
But you'll get a job as a doctor. If you want to become an actor and you go to Tisch or Royal Academy or Yale, there's no guarantee you're going to be an actor, even though you've gone to school for it and you've tried, you know?
It's a very healthy attitude that you're talking about right now. Have you always had it, or was it a result of just developing yourself as a human, as a person, as an actor?
No, I didn't have this originally. When I got to LA, I thought I would be a series regular within 6 months. I thought I'd have a house on the hill within a year. But then when you get here, and then you realize what you're dealing with, you can accept that and come with a new perspective, or you can just be miserable. You know, it takes a lot of experience and learning and understanding how everything works. And then if you still want to be in it, then it's a vocation. You know, like I might never work again as an actor, but I'll try and I'll be happy.
What are your dreams and aspirations at this point in time? You've done it for over a decade. You've had your breakthroughs. You've had your challenges. What is it that makes you still wake up and work hard on, you know, recording those auditions, preparing for the roles? Like, what are your goals at this point in time?
Well, I just want to keep on continuing at the trajectory I have been going at. I started off doing small stuff, and then got a little bit bigger, and then a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. I want to keep on doing bigger roles, and I eventually want to get to a point where I can live very comfortably from doing this. And I also write. So I write screenplays, I have a book. I want to get some of my screenplays made into movies and TV shows as well.
And that takes forever as well, because I've been at the presentation of your book. How long has it been? It's been 4 years, I think. It was around COVID time, maybe 3 years.
It came out 2 years ago, but it's been in development for like 4 or 5 years, you know. But yeah, I I'm thrilled I get to do what I do.
And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to you, because you're one of the people that I can have an honest conversation about something that a lot of people find as a very uncomfortable subject, don't always line up with the reality. And within certain industries, I feel like real estate being one of those industries, and acting is definitely being one of those industries as well. So those dreams and aspirations don't always line up with reality. So, and not everybody is willing to have an honest and candid conversation about those things. So I'm very thankful that you were able to kind of open up a curtain and show me the world of acting in that sense, because, you know, I live 10 minutes away from the studios, but I have no idea how it works. And I feel like a lot of people that are getting in the industry, they might not have the right understanding of the logistics, of the processes that are behind the camera. And I'm very thankful that we're able to have a conversation today. I really hope that your book does well. This is honestly one of the funniest reads that I've had throughout the many, many years.
Thanks.
I always love to read sort of a British crime, Jim Carroll being one of them, you know, Nick Hornby, that doesn't write too much about crime, but, you know, I felt like when I was reading your book, I felt the resemblance with a classic British sort of a criminal comedy.
Thank
and
you.
I absolutely loved it.
Thanks, Oleg. Appreciate that.
Absolutely loved it. And you know, it would make me so happy to see you get to the higher stages and to continue in the trajectory. But you've always been an inspiration to me with an honesty and ability to just keep putting the work in without having expectation. And I think this is one of the reasons why you're successful at what you do. And not only you're successful, but you seem happy.
Thanks, bro. You too. We both came to this country with nothing, and we work hard, and we have a good attitude, and things are all right.
That's all we can do.
Yeah.
That's all we can do. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Love it. Alrighty.